Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Love of Cars, presented by Hagerty. I'm Justin Bell. He is still Tommy Kendall. But listen, guys, a big thank you for joining us this beautiful Tuesday evening after what has been a fairly rough time for America over the last few days.
Yeah, obviously there's some heavy stuff going on, and there's plenty of that on the news, so we thought we would keep it light like we're prone to do, not ignoring it, but give you a little respite to keep you from spiraling down into that rabbit hole. And we do have a great show, so if you want a little distraction, a little diversion, here we are.
When it comes to just easy diversion, that's us. But we have moved home in big news. Our friends up at Fusion, they were magnificent hosts for the past 2 months. But it was time for us to move on, and we are now down at the Motoring Club in Marina del Rey. And I've got to tell you, if you haven't made it down here, they've only been open a year. Michael and his crew opened it just over a year ago. And think Soho House meets the automotive lifestyle. And there's a clubhouse, and there's this beautiful array of cars as displays. It's a little full in here right now because a lot of people are storing their cars, and we have a beautiful semi-permanent space really for Betty and our equipment.
Basically a man cave in the theme of the love of cars. And so it's love of the stories, it's love of the people, it's love of the camaraderie and the actual vehicles themselves. We are surrounded by cars again here. So this is a little quick flyby through the clubhouse area.
So as you can see, it is almost perfect for us. We gained a playroom as well as this fabulous spot. And as you turn left through here, right up in that right-hand corner, where those windows are, is where we're sitting right now. So extremely cool. Look at that, eh, Tommy? Not bad. So thank you to Michael and everyone for Adam for having us here, because we are certainly loving it so far. Pink Floyd. There probably isn't much bigger band name in the history of music. They're one of those epic rock bands that have sort of stood the test of time. Formed in 1965, there were 5 band members originally, and then that went down to 4, but they were known for their psychedelic music, and they had this influence with their lyrics, the profound nature of them, these sustained long anthems that they created, and they really did make this music that is relevant today. Selling over 250 million albums since they first formed all those years ago. They truly are one of the epic and iconic rock bands in history. And the drummer for that wonderful band is Nick Mason, who is a longtime Bell family friend and quite a character. More importantly than that, Tommy, he is a total car guy. Nick, unfortunately, has had to sort of go to bed a bit earlier tonight, or get back in the studio. We couldn't work out which one. So we taped this earlier, and it was a riot. I hope you enjoy it. Watch this. Welcome, Nick. How are you?
Well, as good as can be expected in the current climate.
Isn't that the truth? Where are you right now?
Down in Wiltshire. We live quite close to Bath.
Oh.
And so we're here, and I've taken up a new career in farming, and we're living here with my wife, Annette, and a black lamb who was rejected by his mother and so has been taken in and is living with us. And I can tell you it's not very easy.
It's not
How old? So like bottle feeding and all that?
Yeah, bottle feeding.
Oh, my goodness. Well, he doesn't yet realize he's won the puppy lottery, but he will.
I think he probably does. It's just that there's a lot of arguments about what we should watch on television.
So you've had to change your LinkedIn profile from rock god to gentleman farmer? Uh-oh, we lost his audio there.
Are you there, Nick? It's the
Yeah.
audio went.
Oh, there
Okay,
you
that's
go.
perfect.
Okay.
It just went up. That's so funny. So what are you farming now?
Well, sheep, obviously, or one sheep.
One sheep. It just sounds, I don't know if it's very sustainable, but the
It's
footprint,
probably not.
the footprint is important. Well, you have never met Tommy before. Tommy and I started the show when we realized we weren't going to get offered a job in the new TV broadcast going into the 2019 IMSA series. So we thought, oh, we'll start our own chat show, which has now evolved into the love of cars. And we realize the world of cars is so much bigger than just people racing around in circles and trying to get paid for it, because the real meat on the bone is when you talk about the passion everybody has for the hobby of cars, and it really does reflect in your own life, doesn't it? There you are, you were a musician and started to make a bit of cash, and I'm sure a car was on your first shopping list, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, but cars have been on my shopping list since I was 5 years old.
I love that. Talk about, how do you remember? Some people told us they got a hold of a magazine that someone had left by the curb. Do you remember where it actually started for you?
Oh yeah, the thing for me was very different, really, because basically I was brought into it by my father. My dad, Bill Mason, made films about motorsport. He worked for Shell, and he raced himself. He had a vintage Bentley, and so he did a lot of club racing. So I was taking Silverstone from when I was a really small boy, because the thing I get asked all the time, which came first, music or cars? Well, it has to be cars, because in 19 whatever it was, I don't think rock and roll had been invented. So it was cars, cars, cars.
And of course, when you were back there, the heyday of becoming a rock star, it was you didn't set out to be a rock star, did you? You set out to make music, and all of you got together. We talk about that with racing now. Young kids get into racing now knowing exactly that they want to be Lewis Hamilton, whereas when you started a band back there, rather like with my dad starting racing, he didn't know he was going to be successful at it. Was that the same for you?
I'm not really sure. I think once you start in a band with sort of any sense of that it might go on beyond just sort of practicing in a student common room or something.
Yeah.
I think you actually have it. It's not that you're going to be the Beatles, but you certainly, I think you're driven by more than just having fun. There's some sense of having something you really want other people to listen to.
Now,
Yeah.
do you find that there are two different parts of your mind, or in terms of the thing that made you a phenomenal drummer? Was it the same application or development of skills, or are those two different parts of your brain? How do they come together at all?
That's an interesting idea. I think maybe they are separate, almost separate brains. And very, very sadly, I think I've got them the wrong way round. Because I can't quite resolve the way of getting these things to work properly. My driving never really got good enough. My drumming is still it works, but it's pretty basic.
Well, whatever it is, you've certainly found the secret sauce. But he says about his racing. Do you know something? Nick Mason, 1984, raced at least 2 races in the Rothmans 956. Right? There it is.
Yeah.
Look at that. And that talk about stepping up to the big time. That was quite a baptism by fire, wasn't it?
Yes, it was really. But I think my motor racing career could be called the art of course motor racing, and in terms of doing things in the most peculiar way. Because actually, when I started on sort of sports cars, the first Le Mans I did in '79, the only sort of modernish car, well, it was a modern car then, was probably the 1962 GTO. It was a case of really seizing the opportunities as they came along in a world that was so much less professional than it is now.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you the story about me with Nick in that car, though, because that's the nice segue. I was with Dad. We were up at the Mosport 1,000 kilometers, and we all went out for dinner with Nick, and you had that producer friend of yours there. They were doing a documentary, weren't they, about you?
Oh yeah, Mike.
Tall guy, Mike. Yeah. Anyway, lots of hair. I think. But you all
Yeah.
had lots of hair. And we're at dinner. And I'm 14 years old, and I was all excited, just so excited that, they were there. The Wall had just been on, the concert and stuff, and I wasn't allowed to go. But, it was all, Pink Floyd were very front and center.
Heady stuff.
And I'm there, and I thought, I'm going to make my contribution to this dinner party. And I went, so, Nick, do you do you just do the drums, or is that your voice wailing in the background, or do you let Phil Collins do all the singing? And the table just they went silent for a minute, all looked at Nick, and then just cracked up laughing. I went back, I must have been 12, because I went back to prep school, and in the mail, you went on tour, Nick, and I still have this postcard. I get a postcard at school that said, and it said to Justin, still wailing in the background, love, Phil. Yeah, that was very touching. It's one of my prized possessions. There you are. So my mouth is always getting me into trouble.
That's why I like being paired with him. I always look pretty good.
Yeah,
Well, that's great. What's great is it was only about 40 years ago, and he is gradually getting over it.
Oh, I know. Well, you used to call me, mainly because I was trying to date your daughter, he used to call me the unfortunate face of young British motorsport. That was so you can tell my confidence really has been knocked by Nick all the way
There's
through.
no one quite like the Brits to needle.
There
no
isn't.
One quite like the Brits.
Let's talk about your GTO, because you used to race that. You used to race it everywhere. We have some nice pictures of it. You had no idea when you bought that, other than the fact that it was a smashing car, that it was going to one day be too valuable to even turn on, right?
Yeah, I don't think these cars ever become too valuable to turn on.
That's good.
But it's been a remarkable thing, because, of course, it looks wonderful. It's great to drive. It gets invited everywhere, and it makes me look so clever.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, he remembers what he paid for it. If he paid what it's worth today, you might never turn it on.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's cool about you. Clearly were governed by what you liked. There wasn't even almost such a thing as collecting back then. It was people there weren't these big obsessions, and everyone knew what the price of stuff was and the speculation. So what guided how you bought stuff and acquired stuff? Was it just what tickled your fancy?
I suppose basically I wanted to go racing, but I was in amateur racing. So I was looking generally for cars that I thought would be fun to use. I mean, the interesting thing about this car is that my dad had taken me to Goodwood in the early 60s. Where he was filming there, I think. And I'd actually taken a picture of it coming through the chicane. And when I bought the car, I didn't realize it was the same car, because the number plate had been switched.
Think about that, 60 years ago as a little boy at Goodwood.
Wow. And then now you drive it up and down the hill. I mean, talk about
Absolutely.
closing the loop.
I think there's another point to be made about GTOs. There aren't that many of them, but the owners, and now inevitably there's some extremely wealthy guys. What's great about them is most of them really use the cars. There must be at least half a dozen who are really fairly serious racers in their spare time. And I can't think of anyone who really does sort of lock their car away. There's a great enthusiasm to actually use these things.
Now, you touched on the stuff. We're at unprecedented times for the world and so forth. But if cars been an escape from your day job when it was rock and roll, or is it the racing? Do you do a lot of road trips, Sunday drives to the countryside? How do you think of it? Help you clear your mind? What is it about driving?
I think it's a great compliment to the music. That it's a very different sort of discipline. One of the things about being in a band is it absolutely relies on the 4 or 5 of you working together. The great thing about being in a car racing it is you're on your own. And, it's down to you rather than a band. So I think that's part of the attraction.
And of course, ambition. I remember when I saw you at Goodwood 2 years ago. You it shows that there's something about passion that keeps driving people, because you started out a new band and then went on tour with that. I mean, that takes a huge amount of work and everything. And I'm not saying at your tender age, but do you find yourself, is it like when you drum, is it like muscle memory? Is it, because I've heard guitarists say that their fingers get sore as they're older or whatever. Is it the same for you? Do you really have to like rally around to go back out on the road?
You do to some extent, but I'm extremely careful to play very slow songs.
Yeah.
And also, I'm working on a book called Drumming for the Over 70s. And what it does is it tells you the tricks of the trade. Like, the big thing is to lower your cymbals so that they're easier to reach.
So it's like, you do not drum beat faster than your heartbeat.
Exactly. Yes.
Target drum beat.
If it starts speeding up too much, you just go into halftime.
That's so funny. So obviously this summer, we're not at any of the glorious events that we normally like to go to. It's put a bit of a gaping hole, hasn't it, in what we all do. The world of, I call them auto-social lifestyle events, has become such a part of life. You mentioned Goodwood. But this is relatively, I mean, Goodwood's been going on 20 years now, 25 years. But this is a huge part of showing these cars, allowing people to meet the owners and the drivers and famous drivers. Do you love that element of it, going to all these events?
Yeah, it's a great, I mean, it's almost like something like Goodwood is a sort of motoring Glastonbury.
Yeah.
And you go and hang out with all your mates. But yeah, no, one definitely misses it, because it's terrific. And if you're a fan of motorsport, something like Goodwood or, well, any of the great events, whether it's Pebble Beach or whatever, it's such an opportunity to go and sort of hang out with people who'll tell you stories, most of them untrue, about, something that you're passionate about yourself.
Everyone's a lot faster now than they were. I mean, like a lot faster. No, it's amazing. But I heard a little birdie says that Goodwood, the revival, may be on.
Well, Dario was saying. Fingers crossed.
I cannot see how they could do it. I mean, the way. Yeah, I think it's over optimistic. I mean, I think there might be other ways of running things. I mean, I'm already signed up to judge on a virtual concours d'elegance. We'll get more of that sort of thing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I cannot see that you could manage something like Goodwood with distancing and all the rest of it, and let alone, just getting people there, let alone taking part.
I think what will happen is there will be more, rather like we're talking about with Pebble Beach, and I know they're doing the same with the New Ordrain Festival. There will be more bespoke little gatherings of the car people, maybe 20, 30, 40 cars, their owners. Sadly, it shuts the fans out, which is sort of contributes a lot to the energy of the event.
Unless you have a live web stream team that helps take the message to the people.
That's true. Maybe we could get some more work. I know.
Can I go home now?
Pardon? Yeah.
Can I go home while the two of you sell yourselves?
Yeah, on ourselves. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So what have you been doing, before we let you go, what have you been doing during this time? Does it give you a chance to sort of collaborate on music? That kind of stuff?
No, I mean, I think it's really difficult to work with these sort of video links and so on.
Yeah.
Actually, I've spent some time. I was in the process of building a recording studio down in Wiltshire, and it's sort of rather come to a bit of a sort of impasse at the moment. But I'm trying to get that sort of pushed along a bit. There's, in my particular case, we've got this thing of what we're doing is we're looking at going out on tour again whenever we can. So what we're looking at is finding new dates in the hope that at some point it'll all happen. Because if they do suddenly find some cure or whatever, there's going to be literally hundreds of bands all heading out to get an audience.
It's going to be great for fans.
You have to be ready to scramble.
Yeah, it would be great for fans. Now, when I was in my teenage years and early 20s, 10 Tents, they have a beautiful warehouse in North London, I guess, where they keep a lot of Nick's cars and kind of eclectic vehicles, and you'd rent them out to movies and TV things. Is that still going on?
It's in a much more minor way. It was a while ago now, and it was great fun. I mean, we supplied cars for some of those commercials. I don't know if you remember the Hamlet cigar one, where the Hells Angels bikes fall over.
Yes.
The guy drives on with a Reliant Robin, opens the door and knocks all these bikes over. And it was great fun, but unfortunately, it's one of those things that the World Wide Web sort of killed off, because it was so easy for film, so where people needed specific cars just to go and pick them up from anywhere. So we still do occasional things, and we ended up moving the cars out of London. London became too gentrified, and they painted yellow lines along the road to stop us parking. So that sort of moved out, but it's still a good workshop.
I have a question. Music is sort of a mood thing, where if you're in this mood, you like this music. Do you find yourself, and then clothes are another way to express yourself. Cars, do you find yourself always wanting to drive the same car? You own cars from turn of the century all the way to the modern stuff, like a McLaren GT F1 and a F40, or is it dependent on mood? How do you choose what you want to drive?
Well, part of it is what's working.
Yeah.
How often even the most wealthy guys walk into their garage and nothing starts.
Isn't that true?
That is so
it's a great
true.
Equalizer.
It really is.
Well, but no, it depends, and it depends where you're going to drive. I mean, the interesting thing is that I think a lot of the time you don't go for these hyper fast Ferrari if you're going to be driving around sort of country roads. I think it's far more exciting to go out in a Morgan three-wheeler, or something like that.
It seems weird to ask you this with the cars you have, but is the one that got away? Jay Leno said the one that got away was the one that kept on going up in value every time he looked at it.
It was an Aston, yeah.
It was an Aston DB4. Is the
No.
one that got away for you?
Oh, there's a number that sort of, well, my life's a misery because there's the ones that got away and the ones that I sold. Who was it? Who's the American guy? Never met a man I didn't like. I never met a car I didn't want to buy.
Yeah.
That's back to the 5-year-old boy.
Statement. No, there are always things that I began. The L'Antique, probably. There are probably quicker, cars where you could do well without having to drive any better. I'm always looking for the car that's fair. So it's a bit like Goodwood. You'd really want a sort of Cobra, or one of the Daytona coupes, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I should have bought one of those.
Oh, well, you have to look at your your what is Dario to you? Absolutely nothing really. But your son-in-law's brother.
Well, I respect him.
He's nothing to you.
Nothing to you genetically.
We're not dating.
The son-in-law once removed I don't know,
Yes.
twice removed. Yes. He was showing us his Daytona convertible last week. That is a pretty car. You hear the passion in his voice, and he's someone that's in racing. But a question that we ask quite a lot of race drivers, especially on our other show, is who when you looked around was the guy that you respected the most, or you knew that on his best day they were going to dominate you, and would sort of bring the race to you. I know it's a bit different in music terms, but when you were rising up through the sort of equivalent ranks, who was it? What band was it, or musician was it that you guys looked at, or you looked at and went, "Holy shit, they are really good."
I'll pull myself together. There's a slightly sort of unhealthy way of putting things that you have now and again.
Thank you.
This business dominated by Dario is still bothering me, particularly since we agreed.
I'd like to say it's in the mind of the person that's interpreting the message more than in the delivery.
Well, you may be right. My therapist was waving at me, saying, "It's all right, really." Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The guy who really had the biggest influence on me of all was Ginger Baker, because if it wasn't for Ginger, I wouldn't be here now, because it was seeing Ginger playing with Cream, with Jack Bruce and Eric Clapton. And, the curtains opened and there was this guy with this double bass drum thing right in the middle of the stage, sort of part of the band. He wasn't on a riser at the back of the stage. And I thought, do you know what? That's what I'd like to do. I went out the next day and bought a second bass drum.
Really?
And 50-something years later, I'm still trying to learn how to use it.
Oh, that is a great story. Wow. Well, we're going to let you go, Nick. Thank you
Well, obviously, I'm very busy, Justin.
No, I can tell. You must have the tea on. You did say on your email that in the evenings you like to, I was about to say diddle around with music stuff, but that just doesn't sound good. You like to do your music stuff.
What is this channel? This porn channel?
It's called Online, Nick. I was impressed you could turn on the I was impressed with the laptop thing. My dad would struggle with that. When you say you're doing that in the evenings, does that mean you kind of go off to the studio and the half-built studio and sort of do stuff? I mean, I don't know what you do. What do you do?
No, but in fact, in the next week or two, I think I probably will be able to do that. What I actually did was I built a home studio that is also a home cinema. So when you get bored with one thing, you'd switch to the other. So it's actually got a recording console in it, as well as a big screen. And sort of longer term, I think, well, hopefully, at some point, we'll actually be able to get the rest of the band down here and do some rehearsing.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Well, until then, have fun looking after your black sheep. I will look after my black sheep that I have to bottle feed. And but thank you for joining us. It was a real treat.
Take care, Nick.
It was fun.
Bye. Okay. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Bye.
What a treat. What a treat. And I have a hard time believing he wasn't in favor of you dating his daughter.
No, isn't that shocking? Yeah, you would have thought I was next online for the throne, but obviously not, and definitely nothing to do with my drumming skills. Wow. Well, how do you beat that, eh?
Yeah, just to hear him talk about, he's a rock god, but being influenced by Cream and Eric Clapton and I was looking at his Wikipedia that he met Roger Waters. They were in architecture school. I mean, you Brits, I don't know, racing drivers are a little different, I guess, than the rockers.
Yeah, we just skipped the school part. Whew. But, well, let's get on with the rest of the show. We have a little change to the published schedule for the middle part, because normally we would have one of the Michelin Guide chefs on, but due to circumstances today, we are not able to be joined by Teague Moriarty, but we will be next week, so we look forward to that. But actually, we've been waiting to bring on this guest, a key member of the Hagerty family, for a while now.
Yeah, Larry Webster is the VP of Content, and if you've spent any time on the Hagerty website, content, I mean, it's just, it really is like a fire hose, and so we're going to find out how he gets it all together. Bring him on now, Larry Webster. Welcome.
Oh, hey, you guys. How you doing?
Hey,
so good to see you. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, that's not a bragging workshop background. Are you sure it's not one of those?
I was going to say, is that a fake background? Make noise, bang against something, so we know it's real.
Yeah, it's kind of a wreck. I share it with a teenage boy, and an 11-year-old boy, and we have a lot of fun here, but it's a mess.
So I see a Formula Ford or something in the background, maybe a Miata.
Yep.
A couple Porsches.
It's a Miata with a blown head gasket. That's the oldest boy's project. The Formula Ford. That's a cool one. You guys might like that. That's a Eagle.
Oh, it is.
It was built by All American Racers in '78, and we just used that for driver's school here at Waterford Hills this past weekend. And up above is it's a 993 I bought 10 years ago, and the alternator failed last weekend. I actually had to use the Hagerty roadside to get me home, and so now, of course, it's the deferred maintenance. It needs brakes too, so the whole thing's.
That's a very pretty. What is that? The 911 below it. That was a very pretty car.
That's a 69 911. That was the you guys probably did this. You ever hear the Craigslist curse? I had to go to Flint for Easter dinner to see my wife's family. And I was like, well, so I get on Craigslist the night before, and there's an older family that had this car for 40 years. We're getting divorced, and I went up to see it and bought it. It was actually, it had been in a barn for 40 years.
Wow.
Get out.
He lives what he preaches.
Yes.
This is totally it. Well, Larry, thanks so much for being a part of getting the show on the road as well in the early part. I know we had lots of chats about it. But when I was sent some notes about what you've been up to recently, and I'm glad he brought it up straight away, they really are doing driver school with the kids.
Yeah.
Out in the Formula Ford and stuff. That passing of the torch to the next generation must be, well, it's like me it is to my son and daughter. It has become even more important as they sort of come of age to drive, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. It was such a heartfelt weekend. I don't want to get too sappy on you guys. I know it's all about cars, but we did 2 driver's school this past weekend. The 17-year-old, it was at a local club called the Waterford Hills Road Racing. It's a real gem in Detroit. It's a small road course about an hour outside of the downtown Detroit. It's all volunteers. Put on a really, really good school. I mean, everybody knew what they were doing. Couldn't have been nicer. And all trying to pass down that love of driving. And then next door, they have a quarter midget track, and my 11-year-old's doing that. And the same thing. It was a volunteer instructor, and it was really fun. He was going around the oval, and then this guy would throw cones from behind his back to see if he could avoid it. And
for the eye work, make sure he was looking far enough ahead.
Yep, make sure he was looking far enough ahead. But I mean, just the whole ecosystem of the automotive world, just reinforced what all that passion that comes with it, and how much people are willing to share their time and their expertise. And I have to say, I was really touched, and sort of kicked my butt into figuring out how I can give back as well.
Well, I mean, one of the things we delve into on the show with almost every guest is how it got started for them. So obviously you just gave us some insight into how your kids' love of cars is getting nurtured. Where did it start for you?
I think I was like all you guys. It was as long as I can remember. And I can remember there was this date in 1994. It was August 15th. I learned this very important word called deferment. And I didn't know this. This is how clueless I was at 24. I could defer my student loans. And they weren't as crazy as they are today. It was about 30 grand, but I had an engineering job. And when I found out I could defer them for a year, that gave me a year to do whatever I wanted. I put all my stuff in my car. I was living in D.C. and I drove to Ann Arbor, and like a lost puppy, showed up at Car and Driver and said, "I will do whatever you want."
Wow.
And they said, "Well, you want to wash some cars?" And I said, "Absolutely." And that's how it all started.
So that was 1994. So we're coming up on 26 years into this. Well, it's worked out well for you. You literally, I mean, how do you decide what to pursue and what to generate content-wise? And I mean, you've got some nice hardware in the background, so it's clearly that the love and the way to make a living have merged.
Super lucky. I'm blessed. 4 years ago, about a little more 4 years ago, I was at Road and Track, and I know McKeel, and he called me up and he said, "Listen, you've seen Blues Brothers, right?" Mm-hmm. So you know that scene, we're on a mission from God.
Yep.
So McKeel's like, "We're on a mission. Yeah. We're on a mission to save driving." And I said, "I am in. I am all about that." So, from then it was, we need to build a big audience to get a movement to help us make sure that driving and automobiles are preserved to the next generation. McKeel kind of recognized the autonomous cars are coming. We don't want to we certainly understand all the benefits of them. We're not saying no, but we're saying, look, we want to make sure that there's a portion for cars you drive yourself, the love of them. We even, a couple of years ago, we produced this book, Never Stop Driving. It's sort of like a love letter to car and the culture and the people around it. So we're really just trying to save that stuff.
Well, you're doing such a great job. And of course, the word is out there amongst this community as you're bringing all these elements together. I think the drive share program for us is appealing because we travel so many places around the country, and the opportunity to, I mean, being selfish about it, I think it's going to be fantastic to be able to connect into that network. But another thing that we were just talking about before the show was after this, pretty strenuous and restrictive COVID lockdown, and then basically this specter of horrific travel internationally, even domestically, I think your timing on the road trip, the love of cars, the driving element, I think this is going to be on fire. I don't think you'll get a camping spot anywhere. What is it? Motorhomes 250% up on sales.
Oh, wow.
You guys are totally positioned to help guide people through this.
Absolutely. I mean, we believe in, there's all that stuff. It's like you drive a car or you go on a road trip and you say, well, what do you think about it? And like, well, it's just fun. But we like to say it's a perfect opportunity to unplug, which is so hard now. And you get in a car and it really demands that you be present. You got to be driving. You got to be situationally aware, just like you guys were when you were racing, even more so. But we're so we're so short on private time, on reflection, on being. I kind of don't like all this Zen talk about being in the moment, but there's something to it when you get in a car. And so anything we can do to promote that, help people be a part of it. And that drive share is where it's like Airbnb for classic cars, where people can share their cars and rent them out. It's sort of like just another extension of that mission, of course.
Well, during the lockdown, obviously people had a lot of time to sit and reflect on different things that they hadn't really put their finger on before. And so, a lot of talk about keeping people locked up was the mental health aspect of it. I know the book talks about, driving being kind of therapeutic, but just in terms of everyone uses it differently. But it's sort of, the book was kind of ahead of its time in terms of the joy of driving and the benefits of and then the community. All of it is really kind of timing is right.
We love it.
Well, you probably know him. Your chief mechanic Dan Binks is in there.
I know.
He had all this great stuff about teaching the next generation. The handwork and stuff, and my favorite quote from him is he would say the other young mechanics are around. He'd see him on their phone and he'd charge up to him and say you calling me? Because I'm right here. And they'd be like, no.
Well, and the other thing on that article in the book with Binks, the first thing he says just say you need help. And and that's what Binks is so good at, boiling it down to just simple Binksisms. Just say you need help. None of us knows it all.
Yeah.
Duh. Sounds obvious, but
yeah, Ralph Gilles had probably my favorite saying I've heard in my life. He calls it the cold eye. So Ralph is the head of design at Fiat Chrysler. Huge job, right?
Yeah.
Why those cars look so cool? Huge talent. He's building Alphas and all kinds of cars. He's got a garage just like this. And I went over and I was like, well, why do you do this? And he's like, oh, it gets my cold eye back. I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, I come here, I work, I tinker, I get all this handwork, and then my most valuable time is Monday morning when I'm fresh. And so I went and I called some psychologists, and they all said, yeah, that's called incubation. You get this problem, it's in your head, and you walk away, you do something manual, something that's not really thinking about it, and in the back, your brain is still chewing
tumbling
on
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of like a help, and I was like, it's really great. I could go home and tell my wife, "Hey, I'm not just screwing around out there. I'm, I'm
this is for business."
And we're actually we're trying to get Ralph slotted. He was my boss when I drove for Viper, but like you said, I mean, really insightful, unbelievably talented guy. There's Ralph with the 8C. Is it the 8C?
Alpha 4C.
4C.
Yeah. I just ran into him at track day at Grattan a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, so, he's just a tremendous character. But I've got a question. Sorry. A question.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
Okay. You guys are pros. First question as a driver, right? I always thought professional drivers earn their money from the spot. Let's say you're on a racetrack, a road course, lots of course. where you guys excel is where you hit the brakes to the apex against the amateurs. Do you think that's fair?
That's where the last where the last bits of time are, for sure.
Yep. And then it's for me, it's the next part. When I was teaching people to race, and I had thousands of people at my race school, I would say it's then that next moment in the transition when you kind of have a neutral platform in your car, even though the car may be loaded. It's in this sort of dynamic state, but it's the weight's all over on one side. That rolling speed at that point is where, when you're behind someone in a race, you go, how are they coming out of that car, that corner so fast? Pat Long in the 911 was a great example to me because I'd never driven a Cup kind of Porsche car, and I could do everything, brake as late, get on the power as hard, but the middle carrying the speed was just sublime. And it's all that. I always tell people, if someone's a second quicker than you, it's not all in the hairpin. It's if there's 9 corners, I'd say you're slow everywhere a little bit.
No, watching you, Tommy, last summer go through the top of the corkscrew in that RX-7, and I was so amazed because it looked like you were using the brake as a rudder. And you're almost, I know you guys talk about you back the car in, but it was like you could almost see the thing. You're on the brakes, but you're turning the car with the pedal somehow, with the wheel. It was like this, I was like, holy smokes. I mean, it just kind of blew my mind. Because I usually don't see that from when I watch a race. I'm not that perceptive to see it, but there it was. And I went to Dan. I was like, holy smokes. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's with only 1.5 operating feet. So imagine how good he was before that.
Well, it's funny. One of the things I say that's so remarkable about racing is the controls are so simple. It's a steering wheel that turns left and right, and 2 pedals that shift the weight fore and aft. And so I remember hearing Jackie Stewart, and a lot of stuff I read and didn't understand what it meant until later. And hearing Jackie Stewart say, "Oh, the brake release set determines everything." I'm like, what is he talking about? I didn't even notice the brake release early in my career. And that's exactly what you were seeing there at Laguna Seca was, how you're releasing the weight, the rate at which and when you're doing it. It literally, you can, because with the same exact steering input, depending on how much weight's on the nose versus coming off, it will determine how quickly it points in.
So how do you guys mentally get in the space of, well, first you have to slow everything down so you can analyze the brake release, right? But then, as you guys got into faster and faster cars, I always get that answer, well, we just don't think about the fear. And I always think, is that right? I mean, do you have to how do you compartmentalize that? Is that just a skill you have, or are you so driven to win, you're like, I don't care?
No, I think there's I think any race car driver or athlete of any kind has a certain ego and a self-belief and confidence that makes you go. Well, like we've discussed with people on this show, the legends of before, they go, it was never going to happen to me. And I'm sure it was never going to happen to Tommy right up until this upright assembly just broke and you went off the road. From my perspective, and having talked to a lot of drivers about this, it's if you let the fear rule you, you will never be able to do your job.
It's easy to keep it pushed away until it's broken through, like it did in my accident. And so then, how do you then push through it is a big question.
You came back,
and
came back.
I kind of had to. I had to decide. Up until then, I'd convinced myself, and racers are kings of denial, queens too. But I'd convinced myself I can race at a really high level, really aggressively, really successfully, and as long as I don't make any mistakes, I'm going to be okay. Yep. Well, that was a mechanical failure. So to get back in the car, I said, okay, that blows your theory.
Yeah.
Are you okay with this? And I basically got to a point where I had to say, if you're going to go back and do it at that level, you need to put it out of your mind. But it was not easy to do.
That does separate the professionals from the amateurs, I guess. And it is what we did for a living. So, Larry, we've got to let you go because we have, live from the desert somewhere, a very special guest coming up. So, but thanks for talking to me. I will ask you my question sometime, which is about the future of journalism for these young kids, because you can't just turn up at Road and Track anymore. So
fair point.
So we'll.
Sorry I didn't get to you, but I was dying to ask you guys.
No, yours is way better. Yours is way better. Take care. Thanks so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, guys. Wow, it's just interesting. Well, you can tell. I love it when people like Ralph, people like Larry, you realize they're not pretenders to this. This is the authenticity that the fans, the people that buy cars, the people that want to be involved and are attracted to them. Authenticity is what drives it. And I think that's in all our social media craziness and all this sort of fake stuff that goes on. This is what people are seeking for. So
almost everybody we've talked to, and everybody in Michigan, has been in a garage with a lift. Dan Binks,
everybody,
Larry Webster, Tom Cotter was in North Carolina. So
we are lacking.
We are lacking. We do have a nice place. It's just not ours.
I know. So Singer Vehicle Design. Talk about a group of people led by passion, and I'm sure they have, when they were getting into it, they had no idea of the enormous success it would become. They just had hope and aspiration. And Mazen Fawaz is literally one of the key members who got the whole thing rolling. He's CEO of Singer Vehicle Design, and he's also, I'm going to get this right, he is the managing director of the Dynamics and Lightweight Ability Study, which is the DLS, which is they've got a lot of media on about at the moment. So I'm sure he'll tell us about it. Maz, live from the desert somewhere.
Yeah. How you doing?
Hey man,
Maz,
how
welcome.
Yeah. Been a while.
It has been a while. So what are you doing out there? I mean, I know there's no desert landscape, but I know you are out somewhere.
Out in Palm Springs. I'm doing a little bit of UTVing.
Okay.
It's kind of like karting for trophy trucks.
So are you doing it on trails, dunes? What kind of terrain?
Trails. Yeah, generally fast trails. Yeah.
Wow, how exciting.
It's tremendous. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Wow, with a pretty good teammate, I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's pretty good. So take us back, because I actually don't know what you were doing until I first met you right at the beginning of the sort of Singer project. When did you get struck by the automotive's Cupid arrow?
You mean prior to Singer?
Yeah.
Oh, birth, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. No, as long as I can remember, for sure.
So
Really?
Your father, or
yeah.
or did you discover it on your own? Yeah.
No, just a disorder of some sort.
Yeah. Well, we're all familiar with it. And where was that? Where was growing up?
In Washington, D.C.,
Okay.
D.C. metro area.
Yeah.
So it was skateboards, bicycles, motorcycles, then cars.
Okay, and then between
nonstop.
the childhood and Singer, how did you end up doing it as an avocation?
I actually met Rob, the founder, when he was doing the first car.
Okay.
I moved to California to start a tech business. And I think it was within a few weeks I met Rob doing car number one. And it was not, I guess it wasn't something you'd look at as a business. It was like a kind of a passion project of Rob's, and something Rob, the focus was design. It wasn't, making hot rod car restorations. It was really the love of design, and no one really saw the business coming. I would say you would never have guessed that it would become something that you could do full time.
I remember you said to me at Pebble a couple of years ago, you're like, I'm sure we thought about, was it like you knew maybe you'd do 12 or 15 cars or something, and you thought that would be a great success if that's what we achieved at the end of this. But you've got like 100 orders in the bank right now, haven't you? I mean, it's
there's been there's two types of restorations. There's one we do in California. We refer to it as the classic, and there's one we do in England that we refer to as DLS, the Dynamic Lightweighting Study. The classics we have over 300 orders, and then the DLS cars will only do 75 of those. Ever. That's a limited.
So, I mean, the reason it wasn't thought of as a business is what you did at the time to set the table was insane. It was crazy. I mean, the level of sort of obsession and attention to detail, and remaking every body panel so it looks the same but it's slightly different, and it's carbon, the proportion. Talk about that. That all comes from Rob, and I mean, and then at what point do you stop? I mean, you can always make it better. So how do you get into production?
Yeah. Well, that's a problem. Stopping. Rob has an eye for design. That's like I always compare it to knowing someone who can write hit songs. There's just something he can. change something even two or 5%, and it's a world of difference. And he's sort of visually done that across the entire car. And it was obviously the lightweight sort of performance ethic, but that wasn't really where the boundaries were pushed. And it sort of turned into I would say another thing at the time that was quite shocking was the price. It was very, very expensive at, I think, whatever he was doing them for at the time, $250,000 or $300,000. Now they're over double that because you can't lose money anymore and continue to make them at that price. And then the evolution was DLS, which was kind of a I wouldn't say a money's no object approach to every component, but it was definitely like a modern motorsports approach to everything, every bracket, every fastener, using modern Formula One material science to do an analog thing, right? It's like a mechanical watch. Right? It just tells time at the end of the day, but it does it beautifully. Right?
When the car that you just saw at Goodwood, which is when you revealed it in Europe, wasn't it? Is that 2 years ago now? Anyway, Marino drove it up the hill too, didn't he? Drove the red one up the hill. Didn't you drive it up the hill too?
Yeah, I drove. We switched on and off, Marino and I, and then I think Chris Harris drove it, and Lord March drove it.
Yeah, how lovely.
Young Lord March.
Well, we actually had Nick. I don't know if you know, but Nick was on at the beginning of the show, and Marino is his son-in-law. So it's been great for him to get involved, and I know he's enjoyed that. But you've also had some really clever technology partnerships over in the UK. Is that why you had to do the UK route?
Well, I mean, it's I would say for motorsports, it's like if you want to be an actor, you have to live in Hollywood. If you want modern, like the furthest edge of modern motorsport, it's in England for sure, by a long shot. So it's not just the sort of the mindset and the talent, but certainly the suppliers. So if you want, Inconel and titanium and magnesium, sort of in those applications, that's where you'll find it there. And we did some work in Germany, but it's almost entirely British.
Tell us, tell us some things that that you've learned building this car with the exotic materials, or the lengths you've gone to with some of that stuff.
I mean, pushing lightweighting as far as you can go. It's like never ending.
Yeah,
you could just keep going and going and going. But and then what one big difference, I guess, to that effect is if we were trying to make a racing car, it would be a walk in the park. I mean, no offense to the people that build great racing cars, but to adapt something to work as a road car is maybe 10 times the effort. And it has to be refined. It has to work. It has to last. It's not just for the weekend. And so we
go ahead. Froze. Whoop. Maz.
Well, he can probably hear us. He's just having freezing. That car, I'll wait till him just to come back, but it's on Michelin's. So I was doing features there for Michelin at Goodwood that year, and that was quite literally the star of the show. And one of the things I was going to bring up was, obviously the contrast between, you can see the magnificent display coming out of the front of Goodwood House behind, and then which every year evolves, and hopefully I'd really like to get the Earl of March now. Is it Earl of March?
Lord March.
Lord March.
Hey, sorry, I think I just lost you guys.
Yeah, you came back.
What happens when you're in the desert?
It's what happens. But I was just saying, it was the most beautiful contradiction of visual cues to see your car in front of that house with the sculpture behind. And then, of course, I was shooting all those features for Michelin, so we were doing a lot on your tires. Yeah, I remember that. That was just amazing, the engine there and everything. Michelin have been a great technology partner too, I hear, in the evolution of the car.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's everything, right? It starts at the tire, and they made a special Cup 2 for us, which is the greatest tire in the world, easily. And not only did they participated at a very, very deep level for 75 cars, like not 75,000 cars. So it's been a very, very special relationship for us. It's terrific, and for us, it's we tested a lot of other a lot of other tires, and we just couldn't come close. So it really suits the car for sure.
I was singing your praises last week with Dario. One of my things that I've realized more recently, it was actually after driving one of your classics out at the showroom. I appreciated their beauty, but the scale and how they matched the road. Some of the modern cars are too fast for the roads.
Sure.
And so when I drove that car, I admired them, and I said, God, they're like jewelry. And then I drove it. I said, they drive as well as they look. I mean, so I have the sickness bad now, but I took it up your test road, the Canyon Road there with Seamus, and it's just remarkable how it's got the right amount of power, the right amount of grip, the right amount, the feedback and the feel. It really is spectacular. So now, then when I saw the DLS being unveiled in photos from Goodwood, my mind was blown. I couldn't get enough pictures. I still haven't seen one in person, but is that locked in? Is the spec locked, or have you delivered one yet?
We were supposed to start the first one in April.
Okay.
Oh, good
and
timing.
of course, everything closed down. Yeah,
So
the first one for a client. We've had a lot of test cars.
Yeah,
and it's a magnificent thing. It's obviously a lot faster than the classic, but it's a thrill at 40 miles an hour. That's modern performance cars are amazing, but kind of too amazing. There's too much power and too much grip, and you tend to lose sort of interaction, right? And that's something that's very important to us. It's not really about winning this, sort of a horsepower lap time arms race, which is hard to win.
yeah.
It's really just sort of interaction at kind of at any speed. But this one is it's doing over 500 horsepower at 9,300 RPM, and it's under 2,500 pounds, depending on how it's spec'd. So it's a big step.
That's what Marino said. He said that being able to rev that high, it feels like it's going to go on and on forever.
Well, it's funny because everybody has seized the landscape, and yet everybody gets caught going down that road of racing the numbers and putting the Nürburgring lap times together. I was struck by Gordon Murray when he says this car will be plenty fast in all those ways, but he's focused on the feel and the joy of driving, and you're years ahead of him. You've got two cars that are in production, so you were way ahead of that curve when it wasn't obvious that was the way to go. You must feel pretty proud of yourself.
I mean, it's just everything that we do is because we want it for ourselves. It's not, we don't do anything that's a marketing effort. We think we can sell it. It's just because we want it very badly. I wish I could have that, and it's just sort of a coincidence that it seems other people also want that, right? So we feel that's kind of a reliable formula. If we just want it super bad, then maybe others will want it as well. That's why everything that we do exists, actually.
That doesn't bode well. Usually people want to get us in their cars to help them sell. It sounds like you don't have any trouble selling, so we'll just resort to begging. Yeah. So please let us drive the cars at some point.
Or some richer friends who can buy them. My last question for you, Maz, before we let you get on, is the show called The Love of Cars because we're putting people together, and we've had chefs on. We're going to have designers, drivers, legends, that commonality about it is what's important. Now, in the current world we live in, where automation and all the stuff that's going to be happening in autonomous cars and things that are brilliant, and sometimes on the way back from LAX I wish I was in one, but sure. For my soul I don't look forward to that. What is the role that Singer plays, if you can put it in a few words, that it plays in keeping that spirit alive, that spark of interest and passion?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of, I think what we, why we have any notoriety is just a super high level of execution. There's like a kind of obsessive over how something is put together, right? It's not necessarily about a lap time. A lot of our clients have racing cars, and they can get around a circuit however fast they want. It's really about how something's executed. And I think when cars electrify and eventually become autonomous, it's still an experience, and it's still one that can be it can give you back a lot. I don't think self-driving is going to go away completely, and we are fortunate enough to be able to have a lot of conversations with people in that business, and it's about how you pull it off and what you do with the thing. And of course, there's sort of visual design and all of that not everything is going to be a plastic transportation device, right? There's always going to be people like us.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for joining the show. It really meant a lot, and I know our fans will enjoy it. And enjoy Palm Springs, and say hello to the other JB, will you?
Yeah, I will.
All right. Take care, mate.
He said to say hi. All
right. Say hi. Thanks a lot.
See you guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Wow. How cool
We shouldn't leave him hanging. Jensen Button is who he's hanging with out in Palm Springs.
Yeah. Who arguably has done more with the initials than I did, but fell short of James Bond. So, between us, I'm third in the trifecta there. Thanks for joining us. It was a wonderful show. It was really just fun to be a part of, and did exactly what I needed for my sort of energy tonight. What about you?
Agreed. It was. It's so great to get to. I've never met Nick Mason, rock god, and so idol hero of mine. And I know Maz, but the appreciation for what they do and the craftsmanship and so forth. People are fantastic. They're remarkable. They're inspiring, and
people are amazing.
Yeah.
But thank goodness for the cars that allow them to show it. Next week we have a huge honor to have Henry Ford III, who will be joining us from the Ford Motor Company. We've known Henry for a long time in our own ways, but of course the world knows him from Ford versus Ferrari, when they saw a little boy walking down the pit lane at Le Mans with his father in 1966. So we can talk about all that.
That was his grandfather.
Grandfather, was it? Okay, well, that's why he's my fact checker. And then after
his father and his grandfather.
Yeah. And then hopefully Teague will be joining us from Sons and Daughters out of San Francisco next Tuesday. And after that, Jay Ward from Pixar will be popping along. And if there's ever a man that can understand the meaning of these words behind me, it is Jay. Truly inspirational. He came on our show, the talk show at Audrain last year. He was one of the lead judges, and I wanted to talk to him for hours.
Not only can he draw, he can also communicate it as well as anyone I've ever met. So we're looking forward to that.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. And thanks for watching The Love of Cars, presented by Hagerty.